Welcome back to another episode of Sound Pals Go to the Movies. Today I'll be reviewing the movie Imaginary. So just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. A woman returns to her childhood home to discover that the imaginary friend she left behind is very real and unhappy that she abandoned him. So let's begin with my first pro. The idea of an imaginary friend being evil is very interesting to start with, and the idea that the imaginary friend is the same one shared by the child and the adult guardian, I felt that was going somewhere. We just need to build upon that leads into one-way trail all the way to the end and possibly a sequel. So the premise in this movie was ideally a good start. Next pro, all the Easter eggs or homages that you found in this movie from other horror movies such as Poltergeist, Hellraiser, Nightmare on Elm Street, Annabelle, Sinister, Insidious, and the main generic story of family who moves into their parents' old home that is hiding something evil. That was this whole movie wrapped in one. All these elements were in this film one way or another, either as Easter eggs or a sense of an homage or something that shared similarities with. Also, it might be just me, or did the theme song of Chauncey sound similar to the Home Alone theme? Was Blumhouse trying to be funny and quirky here, or am I just going crazy? Next pro, Jessica's artwork felt a bit familiar, like a cross between Ben 10's character, if you remember that cartoon, and the game Don't Starve. If you've seen any of those, that's probably what triggered this familiar feeling. I was curious to see if I could find any references to the artwork, but I couldn't find anything online. Next pro, the sequences of the Never Ever was mostly practical effects, and it reminded me of an MC Escher painting, which was interesting because if you see the movie, the practical effects and everything, you can see it as a walkthrough or something that Universal Horror Nights might have. And I bet that there might be some haunted houses that will take this creativity idea and recreate it from the imaginary movie into the real world coming up in Halloween. So yeah, those were some nice few minutes in the Chauncey world that I wish they would have explored a little bit more. Now on to my cons. Okay, so this film could have been fine if they took out most of the parts and skipped to the ending and lingered more there. Also, if they had more of an attempt to bring all the characters together and also fill the audience on their backstory, there was kind of important detail there. They just seemed to add it at the last minute out of nowhere, like Jessica's dad's backstory, Taylor and Alice's mother having a mental illness. If Blumhouse wanted, they could have linked it to another of their other films that kind of bombed and try to fix that universe without starting a whole new universe, since they already have a few films that deal with entities that want to take hits. Next con, the build of the story. Normally, you have a foundation, in this case, the imaginary friend idea, that is really an evil spirit, and then you build upon that. Like Annabelle, that started off pretty bad, but after a few films, they understood what they had done wrong, and they corrected and built a whole universe around that. And now, it's a standalone universe. I am not saying to mess up the first film, then the sequel will be better, but if you learn from Annabelle, then use that lesson in this film and get all those bugs out before you actually make the film, and leave the pure essence in it. Then we can start cooking something. But this film tried what I call going fishing, where you throw all the ideas in the pond and see which one the audience goes for. Then when it comes to the sequel, you can concentrate on that idea or element, and then you have a franchise. So as you can see, I'm not a fan of that idea. What I wanted them to give me a platter where they were 100% behind and it was pure, and not something that felt experimental with them trying to see if I liked it or not. If you do that, then I'm not coming back for the second tasting. Next con, there was so many holes in this film. The dialogue between the characters felt really bad. The development of the characters was practically not there. Facts that were added at the last minute as well. Okay, having Chauncey, the imaginary friend, being the same one that Jessica had as a child, and now Alice has found him, was okay, but Jessica calling him CB and mistaking that for the letter C and B instead of the actual SEEBEE that was written all over the walls, and saying that it's her way of saying Chauncey when she was a child, was like, really? You expect us to be like, oh, okay, that's believable? Or throwing the fact that Jessica was seeing the bear all this time just to find out that it was never a tangible toy and no one else sees it but her and Alice, that is fine, but then have the family tell her that she's not well. But here, Taylor's, Alice's older sister, just says, okay, yeah, I spoke to this old lady and I believe you. There's no development or continuity here. They just take that the audience won't ever question it and leave it alone. Next con, the continuity. Okay, so there is a few, let me just focus on the ending that you might still remember. So after coming back from the other side and closing the door, Alice gets over her fear of fire, something they never explained but hinted that it has to do something with her mother and her being mentally unstable. Alice then lights a match and lights the spilled gasoline that they had for some reason in the crawl space or between the two walls of the basement. After this, Jessica, Taylor, and Alice make their way out of the house as the house starts to burn, and by the time they get outside, the whole house is on fire. The ceiling caves in, and yeah, this film is telling us that this house was practically made of paper, and the fire spread super fast that if the family was actually sleeping and this was a natural fire, they would all die. This is an example of how lazy the writing was. and that translates into visual. Another one was when the neighbor boy tells Taylor after sitting and watching a movie for a few minutes or so if she wants to do drugs, and then sticks out his tongue and there's a pill on his mouth. Like, dude, that's a pill. It's not an acid sticker. You don't dissolve it, you swallow it. And then it turns out that it's just his mom's allergy medicine. I was like, come on, Blumhouse, really? What did you do? Just don't say it. Leave it as if it's drugs. This way, what he saw upstairs that scared him, he can play it off as if it was a bad trip. Now we know that he's not on drugs, but he's keeping quiet as to what he saw when he could have told them. Then they could have been like, well, keep that in mind. So when Jessica starts to see things, Taylor can be like, that's like what the guy said. Shit, there might be something to this after all. And now there's no reason for me to be a bitch towards you when Alice disappeared. But nope, nothing like that, just crickets. Next con. Blumhouse will never learn. The director, Jeff, made Fantasy Island, which bombed. Oh, they also had some ghosts and entities in that film as well. He also made Truth or Dare, which also had some demons in there, and that also bombed. This really felt it could have been better if they went with a B-tier horror film mode, and that way they could have played the funny scenes as intentional, but nope, it's Blumhouse. So what do you expect them? They just go in for the quick cash grab. And maybe they were banking on this being another Five Nights at Freddy's. Who knows? So my final grade for this movie is going to be a 5 out of 10. The film concept had potential, but then in Blumhouse hands, they went with let's throw everything at the audience and see what they crave nowadays, instead of making a proper horror film to which they could have built upon and make the effort of keeping things nice and tight and straightforward. Nothing of this, look, it's scary because of the late information we just shared with you and revealed at the last minute, so now you're kind of spooked, right? All these homages that I saw now feel like Blumhouse was trying to make us feel nostalgic and be like, yeah, this feels really familiar, so I will like it, but instead it felt lazy. Bottom line, wait till this comes out on streaming services, Peacock or Netflix, or better yet, if you want something this bad to watch, why not just watch the Winnie the Pooh horror films? That way at least you can get drunk at home and not take it seriously. So that does it for this review of Imaginary. Please join us next time where we're going to review Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire.
It's an unimaginable evil. It's the power to kill by fear itself.
Like, literally scared to death?
Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find our social media links below. And like always, keep watching movies.